Loch Craignish, and Island Macaskin here. Nice bit of aircraft noise to provide a bit of extra pollution. That's Island and Gava actually. Island Macaskin up ahead. And a seagull and a sheep. Now, sheep farmers have thousands of square miles to put their sheep on. They don't need this island for sheep. But this is the ethos of civilization. Every bit of land has to be utilised, exploited for money, and ultimately it can never be just left alone to be wild and free. If there's one thing that civilization hates, it's wild land, true wild land. Land reverting to the wild, turning into wasteland, wasted, not put to economic use. The contradiction between genuine nature, which is wild, could hardly be clearer. Thus we live in a contradiction of nature, and thus in a contradiction of ourselves, since our own origins are in nature. Thus we have our modern world of confusions and contradictions. Contradictions within ourselves, schisms within ourselves, which is why we see all the mental, psychological syndromes, disorders of the consciousness that we see today, becoming increasingly common as we lose further touch with our true inner essence, our connections with nature, our spiritual essence. So gets overridden by the modern ethos, the material, the scientific. It's a good natural woodland, mature trees in this island, but you can be certain there's no regeneration because of the maggots. What are they there for? In 100 years' time or so, there'll be no natural woodland left. As is common with the rest of the country, there is no regeneration. The only woodland left will be in enclosures, fenced enclosures. What was our sheep on this island for? It's totally unnecessary. It should be left for nature, not for maggots, woolly maggots. It's the same everywhere. All the natural woodland is dying. There is never any regeneration. Very rarely. And the ultimate result of burning the land, which goes on everywhere, and sheep grazing, or deer where it's deer, is what you see over there, a forest of bracken. If you burn everything, and you graze everything down with sheep, all you're left with is bracken. You can't kill bracken by burning, and the sheep won't eat it. That's why it grows. Bracken and grass monoculture. Eroded hillsides, deforested, and where there is woodland, there is no regeneration, it is dying. That's Scotland, that is the reality of bonny Scotland's nature. Pretty much. Sea urchin there. I think that one's dead. But you do see them, live ones. Low tide. The yachty over there. Lovers of ease, luxury and comfort. Alright. I think that guy got some diving gear. outermost point of this archipelago. I think the guy in the yacht is diving for crustaceans, shellfish and the like. So he's diving for his luxury seafood, probably to sell. Not as bad, of course, as the trawlers that go out to dredge up the ocean bed. Nowadays we're told, no, it doesn't really do any damage. It just rearranges the seabed, which then gets recolonised. Well, of course it gets recolonised, that's what nature does. But it's like taking a plough through a virgin rainforest, destroying it. It will of course recolonise with different things the sunlight gets in. The forest is gone. The seabed, the natural seabed, gets destroyed by trawlers. Because nature lives on, of course. Nature always comes back. But trawlers are not in harmony with nature. The industry will of course try and tell us different. Just as the tourist industry tells us, extols the beauties of nature and sells us all the wonderful wildlife trips. All part of our modern mythology. Not a mythology of truth. It's a mythology of delusion. That we're living in harmony with nature. Hello. So the ethos of civilization is, of course, you must have economic growth, make a profit, hard work must be rewarded, enterprise, that's how it all works, maximum profit. That means maximum exploitation. So every bit of nature gets exploited for profit, for economic growth. A bit of common sense and clear thinking reveals that it cannot possibly be in harmony with nature. So although we might have evolved out of nature, we can hardly say that us civilized peoples, are living in harmony with nature. So a schism has arisen, a paradox. A schism between the spiritual and the material. Thus we see civilization runs on materialistic principles. It does, of course, in many religions, because its origin is in native peoples. Native peoples are rooted in spiritual principles the world over. But civilization becomes a process of replacing the spiritual by the material. And we, the people of civilization, are caught up in that process. And thus we see our modern world of confusions, contradictions and delusions. Yeah. The way it is, but who believes it? No, we prefer our own comfortable truths, of course. So up ahead is Dorus Mor, possibly the fastest tide race in the country. In a flat cam that's really shouldn't be any problem. Today there's a force 2 to 3 from the southwest, west-southwest. I don't see any problem so far, but I'm going to take a good look before I commit myself. So this is the Dorus Mor coming up. Just taking it really close in. Don't want any excitement today. It's really boring. It's not photogenic, especially in a grey day like this. Plenty to chop out there though. Too much wind noise! Gulf of Corryvreckan, straight ahead. But you can't be too careful. There's a guy killed out there, either that island or that island, a few years back. Don't know the circumstances, but no doubt a combination of wind and tide. Now the tide press is much harder into the shore when it's going out, but if I remember rightly, I think you get an eddy at this point, just towards the end. There's an eddy. You have to stay out offshore a bit. It's surprisingly free of tidal flow when the tide is going in. Didn't realise that because I've always been further out before, well, once before. So the Dorus Mor flows out between these two islands mostly, and mixes with the current coming up from the Sound of Jura, the main Sound of Jura. Got a lot of action out there. If you like action. That's the paddle.